The board did meet in closed session at 3 o'clock and discussed a number of items as per the agenda. And we did reach one reportable decision. During closed session, the board took action to reject the government code claim submitted by contractor Barnum and Celiet, CEDO Electric, Inc., in connection with the Tulare Center for Ag and Technology Project. We directed the staff to finalize, execute, and mail the district's statutory response. And that motion passed 5-0. Daniel, would you please lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, if there are any public comments concerning items that are on the agenda, please come to the podium, identify yourself, and share. Mr. Sims.
My apologies, but I have to leave students in another 20 minutes, and so I'd like to come up and just give my...
That'd be fun.
Thank you. And it's very, very brief. Just good evening to board members and audience. I want to thank you for letting me speak outside of my regular turn, but here I am. Anyway, this is my last appearance for a while as COSTA president in front of you. And I want to thank you for the time and consideration that I've been shown. Appreciate it. A year ago, I hoped for more positive results at this point, but there are glimmers of hope that communications are improving, and hopefully we'll be moving in continuing in that same direction. But before I go, I'd like to introduce my esteemed colleague, Lisa Greer. She will be taking over the office and the board presentation. She brings knowledge and enthusiasm to the office, as well as thoughtfulness and a deep, caring attitude for COS. Please welcome Lisa Greer. If it's okay with you, she can make her comments at the regular time. And so at this point, I will say thank you, and I'll feed her thing.
Thank you, Ed.
Yes.
If there are any other comments for items on the agenda, please do as Ed did. If not, are there any public comments concerning items not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll go to the student trustees report. Daniel also told me that unfortunately he has other commitments, so upon his report he'll have to exit.
So far for this month, ASB has only been involved in accreditation because Debbie Douglas has decided that it's primarily our main year for ASB because we've strayed away from any events and we've only focused on in our class for accreditation. She made it mandatory for all the students to go to the accreditation summit part 2, while only 8 of them attended part 1. Is it 5 that are on your weekly accreditation summit?
Yes.
Team? And the president, as I said, Vice President Jennifer Macerna have been coming into our class and giving us weekly, bi-weekly updates and keeping us informed of what's going on. Something that we did do recently was the staff appreciation luncheon on April 25th. I know that it boosted the morale of many of the staff members, and they felt very pleased that we took our time out of our day to do that for them. And our elections are for the student senate are happening in the fall because with all the accreditation and everything happening, we didn't get that many people signed up for voting, and they're going to be online, so all campuses can participate. And May 23rd is graduation at 7 p.m. and there's a new record for them. We're actually walking. There's 413, and usually there's about 150. So people are pleased with that.
Well, you know, this accreditation business is all about student success. You're a student, so give them good advice. Are there any board member reports?
Yeah, I've got 2 or 3 things that have happened since the last board meeting. All 5 of the board members attended a workshop conference in Kalunga at the Harris Ranch. It was titled "The Role of Trustees and CEOs and the Goal of Student Success." And I was very happy that all 5 of us could be there. If you remember, Dr. Scroggins and I were involved in the initial setup of the Student Success program. So it was good to have all 5 board members there, all 5 board members buying into the student success, understanding it more. There was a couple of things that came out of that that we need to do. One is the board needs to do a workshop like we just did tonight on student success and talk about student success for an hour or so. One of the other things we'd like to see is reports on how the student success is going and be reported to the board. And the other thing that you're already doing is hiring a research director and getting more data so we can follow students and how they're doing and maybe catch them before they slip through the cracks and that type of thing. Second thing, I attended the 210 workshop. Was that last Monday night? Mm-hmm. And that was outstanding. I thought the panel, Stan did an excellent job. John made some great comments. And very impressed with the panel and what they brought out about COS and all the good stuff that's going on here at COS. And so I thought that was good. And even you got a chance to talk about accreditation a little bit, and I think people understood it more. And the third thing, and I don't know if Steve, are you gonna talk about the golf tournament? Yeah. Okay. So go ahead.
No.
Okay. We had a golf tournament for the COS athletics. We ended up with 138 players, which was a huge turnout over our last couple of years. And Stan and Brent and Jennifer were all out there and spent a lot of time with the people, and the golfers had a great time. I mean, really had a great time. And it was not set up that John and I were supposed to win the tournament. And we did. But we took second place, and so John and I donated our money back to the foundation that we won off of. We just thought that was the right thing to do. But we had a kid on our team that I can't believe how far he hit the golf ball. And John, I think he made a comment. He said, "I've never played such a short golf course." So we had a good time. But that's my report.
How Kensington do? Well, is it too late to file a formal appeal of for that golf tournament? Because that golf course wasn't quite as short for me. It seemed pretty long. I did attend on a Saturday, which turned out to be for a fair part of the day, the accreditation community forum, what we'll call it, and summit in the Porter Gymnasium. We had a great group of people there as well represented. Had quite a few students there. We had a student at our table. I think there was a student at just about every table. I think that was there. And I think she learned a lot, as did I. I think we all were involved. John was there as well. And so that was good to see all the work that's been going on and the results that are coming. So that was a good learning experience. I ended up having to do more work than I thought I was going to do.
You got appointed to be a spokesperson for your table.
Yeah, and I thought I snuck out, but they said somebody looking for me, but that was good, and I enjoyed it.
I also attended 210, and I thought it was outstanding. Stan and the group that was on the panel really had some great things to say about COS, and very, very positive. I attended the CCLC, California Community College League of Trustees conference in Tahoe, and had a very interesting panel on accreditation. delegation led by Barbara Bino, who will be visiting us on the 17th of June. And it was interesting to hear that a lot of the community colleges are going through the same thing as we are, especially dealing with student learning outcomes. And one of the comments that was made by one of the people in the audience was, in the past, we would file the accreditation report and 6 years later we would dig it out and go through it again. And because they had no teeth or they didn't put anything. Well, that has changed. They are putting quite a bit of emphasis on accreditation now. So, which I am very glad to see, because if you're going to go to work, all the work to do this, you might as well get something out of it. I think I went through 7 as a high school person, and I can remember filing them away and taking them out 5 years later when they returned to see what we should have been doing. But that was a very informative panel, and I think the accreditation in California is going to step up and have a little bit more meaning than what it has had in the past. And I think in the long run, it will be a very good thing for community colleges. We also, one of our speakers, we had 2 very good speakers. One of them was the CEO of the California School Boards Association, and they represent K-12. And he spent quite a bit of time talking about the coordination between community college and K-12. And some of the things he was talking about, we have been doing here with our university, high school, Visalia Tech or VTech, and many of the feeder schools of having students already come and have college credit as seniors. So I thought, well, we're doing the right thing there. The other speaker was Norm Brown, who is the CEO of ACCT, the American Community College Trustees. And he said, whether you realize it or not, California, you have started a trend in student learning outcomes because all of the other 49 states, or if you listen to something, 52 states, or whatever it is, have picked up and are adopting California student learning outcomes. So he said, at least, if nothing else, you can look at that you're the leader in the U.S. about community colleges in this feature. So he was very positive about some of the things that are going on in California community colleges. And it was a very interesting conference and very well attended.
Thank you. I don't have anything new to add. I would like to elaborate a little bit. I attended the thing that the academic senate put on Saturday, Trumpet School. And Michelle, I was very impressed. You know, that program is run by faculty. And I was just so pleased that the faculty is so engaged, and this accreditation is everything in faculty. And to know that we're going to come through this just fine because of the faculty's engagement. And I haven't had that much fun in a room full of that many people in a long time. I felt like I felt welcome, and I truly enjoyed it, came away with a lot. Similarly, that thing at 210, which was hosted by the Presbyterian Church and the Visalia Baptist Delta, I learned that there's people in this community that know one heck of a lot about this college. I was particularly amazed at the gal from the Farm Bureau. She knows more about our farm program than about 95% of the people in this room, including the board. And everybody else, it's not like they're prepared for the forum. they knew a lot about this college. And I'm sure that what was we call on for a number of things in the future. I was very pleased. That's going to happen again in September, and there's going to be probably questions will be more, less about information, more about what you're going to do. And I look forward to that. Greg been talking about the golf tournament, and what he didn't say is it was a success because of him.
No.
Now, and he was, well, he was, and now you're going to say, well, everybody else did a lot of work. They twisted their arm and they did a lot of work. And including one of our former folks that from here, Dave Adams, I saw him tap him early on, and when I picked up, he did an awful lot. It was a lot of fun. I understand you raised a fair amount of money, and I know you raised a lot of friends, and that's, it was a lot of fun. We were getting off in the right direction. And are there any other thoughts on that subject? If not,
Let me say one thing about 210.
yeah.
One of the questions they asked each person on the panel was, how would it affect you or the community if DOS is no longer here? And it was a huge effect. I mean, I don't know how many multi-millions of dollars that this college generates out there in the community. And they talked about how they need programs to train a new company coming to town. They use COS as a recruiting tool for a new company coming to town. Because they can come to us, we can create the jobs that those people need, and so I mean it was good. It was good.
One question that after it was over with, one of the folks at Time Dilla came to me, and there was a question they didn't get to about what is the board's role in the accreditation. And he assured me that in September that question would get asked. And I was kind of ready for him, I think, because I think I know what the board's role is, from my perspective at least. This board cannot make this accreditation thing work. It's going to be up to the faculty and administration and to do most of the work. Tonight, and if you hear that, well, you do it in 6 years, you put it on the shelf, and 6 years later you get it out. The board's role in this is not to get through the accreditation so much, to make sure that it doesn't get put on the shelf, it does get implemented, and that we are the catalyst to make the college live that. So that 6 years later, we're still doing it rather than starting over at the time. And each time there's 5 of us up here, we'll probably have 5 opinions, but from my perspective, the most important thing we can do is to not make this a once every 6 year deal. You have anything to add on our comments? Or do you want to wait for your report?
I'll wait for my report.
All right. Foundation report, Mr. Brent. Now that we talked about all the fun stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm talking about we don't have the final bill from the country club, and they have not been able to work in the facility for a little bit. But I think we made about $17,000.
Good.
We still don't have their final bill. Last Thursday we had our scholarship night. There were 207 scholarships given out. To a total of 153 students and over $170,000 awarded. Kind of our goal this year was to increase the number of students and the amount of money that was given out. May 18th, next Saturday night, is the Beast Feast, which is at the Pavilion at the Tulare campus. Alligator, snake, odd things. There will also be chicken for those who are less adventurous eaters.
Left the chicken that tastes like alligator?
Yeah. I think alligator is more expensive than chicken. And then May 30th is the COS Regatta at the Traps residence. So we have several sponsors already. It should be a fun evening. It's casual, it's the blue shorts and t-shirts. And we have the Hobbs are preparing a special nautical grog to everybody in the mood to bid on the boats. So it should be a fun evening. It's Thursday night, it's at 5:30 right after work. Should be a couple of hours, and so I think everyone will. Tickets are available in our office. Without the exception, Any questions?
Thank you.
How are the sales coming?
Individual sales, we've received 30 reservations, and I don't know how many tickets we sold out of the office. We have about 6 sponsors at $1,000 each.
This community is incredible how they give and give and give.
Thank you. Accreditation report, Dr. Cernan.
Well, it's the foundation.
Good evening, everyone. As we've heard already, we've been extremely busy over the past few weeks with accreditation. We've had 2 summits that were referred to already, and I also wanted to add my thanks to Michelle Hester-Reyes and Leah Trimble and Christian Anderson, who organized the whole thing. It was completely faculty-led. We have over 80 people at each of the summits, community members, the Hamiltons are here, and other people. We had, faculty, staff, administrators, students, board members, and community members, and they were both outstanding events. I think for me, some of the things we talked about at my table and that were resonated with me was that at those tables and throughout the day, it wasn't any administrators versus faculty or versus staff. Everybody was just part of a team trying to solve a problem. And I think both of those days went a really, really long way for helping with some of our campus dialogue issues that were referred to in the accreditation report. And that's something that Michelle and I had talked about quite a while ago, is that was a thing the Senate wanted to take on this year, was handling, dealing with, improving the campus dialogue. And I think both of those events went a really long way in healing some of that campus dialogue. So the 210 Connect workshop hosted by the Visalia County Delta, and we also had Bob Pacheco here on May 3rd. He did another training with the managers, and then also with spent the afternoon with the faculty on student learning outcomes, and he very successful day for him. And then also Daniel had alluded to this, but the students have 2 tables that they set up this month through and handed out information on accreditation and talked to students as they were walking through the quad on accreditation. So I think the students have really stepped up, attended a lot of the things, and then also took it on their own to hand out information to students on accreditation. We have, we hand out a flyer. There's several upcoming events, so even though some of us are winding down for summer, we're going to be really busy in the summer continuing to work on accreditation. So this Wednesday, May 15, there's a community forum in the Ponderosa building from 3 to 4, and we'll be looking at the outcomes and assessment cycle that one of the subcommittees on student learning outcomes and assessment has been is recommending that's going before Senate and College Council at their next meetings. On June 12th, Dr. Pacheco will be back, and he will be spending the day with Management Council on service area outcomes, administrative area outcomes. June 17th, Dr. Vino is here for a workshop with the board from 1 to 3:30, and we're still determining the location on that, depending on the size of the audience. Dr. Eva Conrad, our other consultant, will be back on June 18th and 19th. She'll be working with us on several issues, following up and then kind of resolving a few things. And then Thursday, August 8th, Dr. Pacheco will be back doing an all-day teaching and learning institute on outcomes and assessment, with the faculty. And August 9th is our convocation, and we'll also be spending 3 hours of our normal 4 hours on outcomes and assessment. So those are some upcoming events that we have on the presentation. Any questions?
No question?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Superintendent reports.
I think everything that I would have touched on between board members and Jennifer's report has been touched on. The only thing I might add, just for board members as a reminder, and by way of getting it on the record publicly, is that once a year we hold joint meetings with our respective center campus communities, being Hanford and Tulare, and we do that annually. And we actually go out and meet in those cities at locations in those 2 areas. And our upcoming June meeting has actually been changed from the regular meeting date of the 2nd Monday in June to Wednesday, June 19th. I just want to go on public record as reminding our board that we'll be out in Hanford for our joint meeting with the Hanford City Council and Hanford Joint Union High School District, and it'll be June 19th in Hanford, and want to make sure that for those of you who might want to attend that meeting, that you know that we're in Hanford that night. And I think everything else has been pretty well covered. It's a really busy time. Just a reminder to you as board members that there is an opportunity tomorrow evening for an opportunity for some faculty appreciation and fellowship. You all got this flyer, and if you're available to come out and participate in this, it's again something put together by our classified and faculty staff in collaboration. Gotta love the theme. It says, "I love COS," and it's an opportunity to come out and be part of the Faculty Awards and Appreciation, a little barbecue dinner. And then, of course, one of the things we all work toward, which is graduation and commencement ceremonies coming up next week. So with that, Mr. President, that's all I have to report.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Stan? Academic Senate report. Michelle.
Good evening, and Earl, may I say, you look fabulous.
Thank you.
How do you feel? Good?
Great.
All right. This is my last meeting, but Ed has already stole my thunder. So I just want to thank you all. It's been, believe it or not, 5 years since I've been Academic Senate President. I am going to be moving to Texas in June, so the next person you see up here will be the interim Senate President, which is Thea Trimble, who I believe you all know quite well. And I think she'll take wonderful care of the Senate and of COS. We do, however, have 2 meetings left, May 15th and the 22nd. We have a lot of business to do. We have approved the governance manual, and now we're looking at the integrated planning manual, and also the proposal for the assessment cycle and what we're calling dialogue days. And so that's the majority of the work that we'll be doing before we break. May the 22nd is also our Faculty Service Awards, and here's a list of the people that we'll be honoring. And of course, we would like you to come because Earl usually gives out the pins and the certificates for the recently tenured faculty. But if you all come, we'll find some job for you. So,
What day is that?
the 22nd, Wednesday. Yeah, sorry about that. I should have it on there. There is an e-news going out today, though, however. On the 17th, the Senate has agreed to a special Senate meeting, and we will know a little bit more about what kind of pieces we have not finished, but I just want to thank Dr. Jennifer Lacerna for making that possible, because that is not a time we meet. We have talked about how to compensate people for going to a Senate meeting in June. We're pretty sure that we won't have everything accomplished by then, so we just want to make sure, in case of emergencies, we have a date set. I think that's about it.
Well, thank you, and I didn't realize you've been, how long have you been president of Academic Senate?
Well, let's see, 2, 4, 5 years, yeah. I know, that's too long.
Well, public service is its own reward. It has to be, because it's a little reward. And God, thanks for what you've done for college.
Well.
And Texas will be annual. Don't forget us.
No, I won't. Thank you.
Are you planning on coming back after that, or?
I want a leave of absence that you guys agreed to, an unpaid leave of absence, and I'm going to see what Texas is like. So don't be surprised if I'm back.
Thank you. Any other questions for Michelle? Costa, I'm saying you want to.
Yeah, I'd love to say a few words. First of all, thank you very much for the time. I'm also very glad that Earl is feeling well and looking great. We're all glad that you're back. If you'll indulge me just for a minute.
Sure.
COS is a place that I dearly love. When my mother was expecting me a lot of years ago, my father was part of the group that helped to establish the nursing program here at COS. He was the hospital administrator in Exeter back in the 60s. When I was a little kid and you could still ride your bike around, Brent remembers these days, you could ride everywhere on your bike, and as long as you got home at night for dinner, everything was okay. And I used to ride around COS all the time and think, gosh, maybe someday I'll get to go to school here. Sure enough, that happened. Then went on to Fresno State. Never imagined I would eventually get to be a faculty person here. After some years at Columbia Delta doing social work, was fortunate enough to be able to start as an adjunct person and did that for about 10 years, and then was fortunate enough to be selected to be here full time. So now I've been here as an employee for about 25 years and feel very honored that the faculty have elected me to represent them through COSTA in the next year. I look forward to working with faculty, staff, administrators, and the board, and certainly work towards increased communication, improved communication with all groups. I think if you ask people that, and there's a few of them out there that know me, I think communication is key, and I've worked really hard for the last 25 years to develop relationships here. So I hope that those can continue to serve me well and to serve the faculty well. So I look forward to reporting each month. Thank you.
We do too, and thank you for your work.
Can I ask a question?
Of course.
What do you teach here? I mean, maybe that was said and I didn't get here.
I don't think it was said tonight, but I've been the coordinator for cooperative education and internships. And I've also taught, I haven't for the last 3 years, but I've been in the classroom teaching human service courses. My background is social work.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
CSEA, Mr. Lamar.
Yes, just a short report. I wanted to go publicly to acknowledge Shelley Giles and the PACE Committee, that's the Professional Association of Classified Employees. And although last year was our one hiatus, they had put on this appreciation dinner for everybody here, the family at COS, and they do such a great job, and I just want to thank that whole committee. They worked really hard throughout the year to bring staff training and staff appreciation stuff like this together. It's always a great occasion. I know tomorrow's going to be the same. CSEA was due to go into negotiations this Wednesday, but we mutually agreed to wait till the May revise pops out. I don't know what's going to happen on that, so that's my report.
Thank you. Good. Thank you. That leads us to item 11, Roman numeral 11, the general obligation bonds. I see that there's oh, I missed one, Safa. Oh, Adjunct just doesn't get any respect. Mr. Dickel, I apologize. I said I was out of shape here.
I have no report for this.
You'll be back, right, Don?
The general obligation bonds, I see that there's for Measure I, there's a meeting scheduled for September 10, for Measure J, September 9. Stan, do you have anything to add?
No, those are listed for us tonight by way of public notification and just reporting out publicly that those are meetings set for the fall upcoming following our summer break.
Thank you. Under information items, there's some, item number 1 is board policies, administrative procedures, modifications and new ones consisting of participation in local decision-making, human subject, computer and network use, website, and career technical education program. Stan, would you like to help us with this?
I will. I'll start with first thanking you for taking a little time tonight and allowing us to do this first reading. These are for your information tonight, no actions required. Hopefully by way of your advanced agenda, you've had an opportunity to look these over. I'll address the first one, and then we've got some representative staff here who can talk briefly about each of those that follow. Remember, the board policies are here tonight for your perspective, for your information, and then ultimately your review and adoption. The related administrative procedures are here for your information, not necessarily required for board adoption, but just to accompany them so that you can see changes that are going on in administrative procedures, which are kind of the how-to in terms of implementing changes in board policy. So if I can draw your attention to the first one on our bullet list there, board policy and administrative procedure 2510. You can tell by our formatting that if there's something that's being proposed for deletion, we'll do a line through on it and we'll strike through that. And then if there's something that's being proposed for addition, you'll see it in bold. And if there's something that's underlined and bold, that means that it's been added through the participatory governance process. So these policies start with an opportunity for them to be reviewed and revised in senior management. They go out to all of the constituents at the college. They come back with input and feedback. If that input and feedback results in additional changes, then we'll add those changes. And then they start their way through the current college council and through the academic senate if necessary or if appropriate. And then ultimately, having had an opportunity to make it through those two venues, they come to the board for a pair of readings and then final adoption. This first one, 2510, participation in local decision making, I do want to just point out that this is one of the policies that we did take a look at as a result of the accreditation response efforts. It's not something that came from any of the accreditation response task force work. This was more specifically just a policy revision initiated by senior management. And you'll recall under the Title V section of the Education Code and under the previously adopted SB 1727 that there are areas that by law, by statute, are delegated to the academic senate for primary responsibility and oversight. And you can see those at the bottom of the first page of the policy and the top of the second page. Those kind of 10 or 11 areas, 10 plus 1 as we call them, are those areas in the code. And what colleges do is they determine one of two ways that the board is going to receive those kinds of recommendations from the academic senate. They can either primarily rely upon the advice of senate and the judgment of senate in making recommendations in those areas, or they can mutually agree. And I suppose you could debate a little bit back and forth which is stronger, to have to mutually agree or to primarily rely upon the recommendation of. But either way, you can see how we divided up those responsibilities and how they operate in our institution. We're not proposing any changes in that. What we are doing, though, is we're setting forth up front, you can see at the beginning of the policy, some new language that clarifies the Board of Trustees' role in facilitating this decision-making process. And even in the event that there might be a lack of participation on the part of one of the participatory entities, a failure of academic senate to act either in a timely manner or at all on a particular topic. In the past, we've interpreted that to mean that the process stops or that the board can't take action any further beyond that. And what we've done here is clarified, in fact, that the board can, and in some cases has the legal responsibility to continue to take action regardless of the role or lack of role that the participatory partners may have played. And it shows you there how that happens. It happens at a public meeting, it happens with written justification, but it's our way, I think, of responding to some of the expectations that were set forth for us in the accreditation sanctions, making sure that we took a look at board policies and administrative procedures that would enable the board to be able to keep the institution running through the local decision-making process, even in the event that there might be some delays or some lack of participation at one level or another by the participatory groups. And then on the second part of the administrative procedure 2510, it just kind of goes along with the board policy, and there's a section in 2510 where we had defined key terms. And we talked about what was in our current policy, which is a definition of what it means to primarily rely but not exclusively on a recommendation, and then what it means to consult collegially, and then what it means to reach a mutual agreement. The additional piece of information that we're proposing here is to also define what it means if a board determines that there's compelling legal, fiscal, or organizational reasons under which they could make a decision without the full participation or without a recommendation from the participatory groups. Again, all of these were authorities and tools at your disposal currently and under the Education Code, but we didn't have them clearly clearly spelled out and explicitly written. And this has gone through a fair amount of debate and discussion, both at the academic senate level and at the college council level, and at least with regard to that first set of policy and procedure revisions. These proposals that are before you tonight have been approved by all parties in the participatory process.
Well, I think I'd like to do this is, first of all, take one at a time. And as far as 2510, see if the board has any questions. And following that, if anybody representing various parts of the college have any comment, and then following that, see if the board has any recommended changes, and then pass it on to the second reading. So first of all, any board member have any questions of anything to do with either board policy 2510 or the administrative procedure 2510? Hearing none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on these two items? Well, if there's no questions or comments, does that mean that you want to pass on to the second reading, or do you have some suggested language changes? Not a, I entertain a motion to pass on the second reading. So moved. Second? Second. Moved by Greg, second by Earl. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes 4-0. Stan? Well, it is, we're not approving it, but we have to pass it on to the second reading.
Right. These are for your information tonight, so any action that you would take tonight is just authorizing us to move them on to a second reading. And that's fine. Okay, next one up is Board Policy and Administrative Procedure 3290, which is entitled Human Subjects, and Dr. Lucerno will give us a quick overview.
So this is a brand new policy to the college, and it, actually Dr. Robert Techo and Christian Anderson spent countless hours researching numerous community colleges who have human subjects policies. Basically what this does is it protects the college for anyone doing research on the campus, that no subjects of the research are harmed in any way. It keeps us safe with policies from the National Institute of Health. And so by the fact that we've never had a policy like this, a decision was made a little over a year ago to write one and get it through the process. So we're moving it forward today. So everything is entirely new. In 99% of the cases here at College of Sequoias, research would be what's considered exempt from following a full review of an institutional review board. So unless you're dealing with populations that are what we consider sensitive, children, what's the word? Vulnerable. Children, incarcerated youth, that kind of thing, then it's going to be exempt. So the policy basically establishes an institutional review board and then gives us the basic principles of following the human subject protocol.
Any questions for the board? Any comments from the audience? And I think they were real right, it's a bit formal, so I'll put it to say that if there are any suggested changes the board has to pass on the second reading, and if not, to go to second reading.
They're here for information tonight, so unless you object, they'll come back automatically to the second reading. Thank you, John.
And the next one,
yeah, the next one would be just an administrative procedure update, AP 3720, and this is just for your information to let you know that we've completed this, and we'll be bringing and are informing you so that it can be implemented.
Okay, so that, you're talking about 3720 or all three of them?
3720, which is the AP. And then the BP is 3721, and that's on website use. You want to give a quick update on that, Tim?
Just real quick, we've never had a BP on the use of the website or how we're going to use it, so what we have is just a real quick reasoning for using the website, and what the board policy states is how it's going to be used.
Any questions from the board? Comments from the public?
John, just a clarification for me. Under 3721, we refer to Sequoia's Community College District and the context there in the first, but yet on AP 3290, we leave the College of the Sequoias. Is there a distinction? Or
we're known by at least those two names, if not some others. So what we were trying to do, Ken, is we were trying to note under the headings where it says board policy or administrative procedures, that you would find these under Sequoia's Community College District.
Yes.
But then in the body of any of the text, refer to ourselves as College of the Sequoias. So if we didn't make the change in the body of the text, we could go back and make that correction, just so that it's
Here you
consistent.
stricken the College of the Sequoias and are referring to it as Sequoia's Community College District.
Right, initially, I think initially they had done, it was a simple search and replace on the
Yeah,
software.
but on the other one, you did the opposite. You have colleges, I'm not that I care.
Right, so we'll get them corrected so that it doesn't strike it in the text. It leaves us as College of the Sequoias in the text, but references us as Sequoia's Community College District on the headings.
So you're gonna do whatever you're gonna do, we're gonna do the same for all.
Correct.
All right. And, anybody from the public have anything to say about, 3721? Okay, well then that'll go for the second reading as well. And the last one's AP 4102.
Yeah, and that's just a quick change. Community College League of California, their recommendation to update the policy based on requirements from the U.S. Department of Education for reporting federal financial aid eligibility.
Comments to the question for the board, comments from the public? And so I guess that comes back to second reading as well.
Very good.
Takes us to item 2, quarterly financial reports. Mr. Fernandez.
This is the quarterly financial report, and it's for the quarter ending March 31st, 2013. If you look at that first page, it gives the projected 12/13 ending fund balance. So this is basically our working budget. It shows that our fund balance ending would be $2.4 million, or 5.1%. This is strictly our working budget, and we don't typically spend everything that we budget for. So that's just our projection at this point. If you turn to the next page, at the very top, it is about our cash. And what's unusual about this year is with the passage of Prop 30, it created a separate fund called the Education Protection Act. And they're putting the funds generated by Prop 30 into that fund. And they're not going to disperse that to us until June 24th, so basically at year end. Those total over $9.7 million to COS. So that's why you're really seeing a cash flow shortage at this point in time. Next year, we're being told that those will be dispersed quarterly instead of at year end, so that will come out next year.
I'm sorry, can I just clarify that that's not all new money? The new money to this year is only $472,000. What they've done with the passage of Prop 30, though, is they've gone back and reclassified what would have been general apportionment last year. They've taken a big chunk of that, $9 million, and now they're calling that Prop 30 funds as well. So what they used it's kind of a little bit of smoke and mirrors. What they paid us with last year, that's freed up for other purposes. Prop 30 is taking its place. So of that $9 million something, only $472,000 is new money. And I'll be coming up later to share on some of the requirements that we're going to go through now to advertise how we're going to use that quote-unquote new money, which is really, in this year, almost exactly the same as the money from last year. But it's a little
So that's
bit.
how they're getting around the language in the Prop 30.
Well, remember, Prop 30 was intended to eliminate some of the deferrals. So this is that version, this is how they're structuring the quote-unquote addressing of the deferrals, giving us the money they should have given us before with the new name attached to it.
So I'm sorry, I just wondered why that thought was fresh. I wanted to point that out.
So at the top, you see that our cash excluding borrowed funds is negative 7.7 million. So if we do not have access to the tax revenue anticipation that we take out each year, that's really what's keeping our cash flow going at this point. If you look down in the middle of the page, it's giving our year-to-date actuals, that column 3. And you see fund balance ending is negative 10 million. And that's those EPA funds being withheld until June 24th. That's also, as part of that 9.7, a portion of it is the redevelopment agency wind down that we're being held harmless for, so we're promised those funds at year end also.
So where do you show the interest cost?
Interest cost is within the expense categories called service, and we do report that at the budget for that in the tentative and adopted budget book, and we do watch that closely, but there is a cost to it.
Do you know how much? I mean, if it's X number of dollars and if they're going to pay us quarterly, then that may be money that we will not have to spend that we can use
Yes.
for other things.
For 12/13, our estimate for interest expense for the cash flow borrowing was $150,000. We'll see where that comes in at year end. We did reduce that budget for 13/14 in anticipation of new cash flow loans, yes.
That could be done.
And were there any questions on this quarterly report?
If not, then we go to item 3.
This is the quarter update to budget accountability reports also for quarter ending March 31st. You see the first report, this is what you see monthly on the consent agenda, and we just pull it out at the quarter end so that we talk about it, at least quarterly. As you see there, it takes the budget that you approved at the prior meeting on April 8th and compares it to what we're going to ask you to approve at tonight's meeting, and gives any differences. We see that our revenue hasn't changed very much at all. It went up $66,000. That's primarily due to the student material fees that do not go in until after the last drop date for the semester. That increase was $41,500. The other $19,000 was due to some augmentations on some grants, ILP grant and the C6 grant equaled the $19,900. On the expenses, they're mainly due to expense transfers from one category to another. As you see, letter B, adjunct faculty increased by $200,000. That was a transfer from our benefits account. You see the corresponding negative, basically $200,000 there. That's to cover projected expenses for the year. And that's due mainly to estimating the budget. And we're still hoping to get that adjunct number the way that we estimate it down to a closer feel for the budget, but we do struggle with that each year. The only actual increase was the material fees of the $41,500 and then the two augmentations of the categorical dollars for the C6 grant and the ILP grant. Also, what has been added to this report that I think possibly was their last quarter update is I've included the detail of the one-time indirect mandate reserve. And you see there, as of April 8th, we were predicting that we were going to utilize $354,000 of that reserve. So that's not giving you the reserve balance, it's giving you what we plan to use. So you see at the beginning that we had planned to use the entire $996,000. And then you see the kind of plus and minuses as those FSP changes go in, and it brings us down to the $354,000 that we're predicting that we will use at this time.
This is consistent with that.
That is correct. Were there any questions on this report?
If not, thank you.
Do you want me to go over the other reports? That was just the first one.
Please.
The next report is on the annualized revenue projection. It's, and this is just looking at our annualized projections for revenue. This is basically our working budget for revenue because we're changing that as we find out new information about revenue. You see there that our state revenue increased by $3.3 million. That was due to the passage of Prop 30. Other state income went up $142,000. That's due to an increase in our 2% enrollment fee revenue. And those are unrestricted general fund dollars, so those helped that those weren't in actual categorical. Local revenue went down, and that's due to that one-time indirect reserve going, our planned usage going from $996,000 down to the $354,000. The only increase in the other local revenue is due to the materials fees. So for both semesters, it went up a total of $108,000.
We just talked about the Prop 30 monies for fiscal 13, and we talked about the 472. Now I'm seeing here there's 3
I wasn't going to interrupt her again, because once it's now, right.
So why did you wait for me to do it? Huh?
I was, rude dog. The reason it looks as if it went up by $3.5 million is because it's compared to our adopted budget. And recall, when we adopted our current budget, we assumed it was going to fail. And so we had a lower revenue number in our adopted budget. So when it passed, we were able to put that revenue back in. So it's not new revenue, it's revenue that we had last year. And we took out the...
thought it was going to go down.
Yeah, we took it out, we took it out anticipating it failed.
If Prop 30 had failed, we would have had that cut in $3.3 million basically, and so we adopted the budget at that cut so that we will be conservative. Any other questions on that report? The next report is the projected expenses. So these are the annualized expenses. And they compare that to the working budget. We really utilize this report to see where we're having issues. This is where we could really notice that we were having a shortage in our adjunct faculty. So this report is a good utility for the business office in particular to make sure that at year end, we have enough budget authority to make those final payroll checks and final vendor checks. As you can see here, each of the major groupings were within budget. Our projections are. Were there any questions on this report? The final report is the quarter report. These are actuals for March 31st. This shows all of our different fund groupings. So I know earlier Lori alluded to the fact that she wants to keep an eye on the farm. This is the report that she should be using that keeps track of the actual expenses and revenues for the farm, and then it shows the ending fund balance. For instance, as of March 31st, they have a fund balance of $464,000. This is not the farm special reserve. This is their farm operating reserve. Those are two separate pots of money.
Okay, so which column of
the farm special reserve is the third from the left, and the farm is almost in the middle. It's about
oh, gotcha, just to the right of it. Gotcha. This is where Larry spends his money.
Yes, the farm is the operating account to keep the farm running. The farm special reserve is utilized, it should be utilized more for maintenance of the facility. And any time that they want to utilize the farm special reserve, they have to request it from the board. And the board actually has to approve that transfer to their operating fund where they can spend the dollars. As you can see here again, for general fund, it shows the negative $10 million. Again, I want to stress that that's a point in time as of March 31st. That's not projecting how we're going to end the fiscal year. And that's due to the EPA fund deferrals and the redevelopments. And,
you'll be adding the Linwood?
yes, as of March 31st, it hasn't been sold, but it will be on the next report. Are there any other questions? questions?
Consent calendar, there's 5 items on it.
Mr. President,
Yeah,
Vice President, we have one more report,
whatever it is.
number 4, student success.
Well, I'll be glad I've already done that.
Yeah, so will the rest of us.
The cue for you to take Dr. Lacerna is that Vice President Zumwalt's hungry. So he's moving quickly through the agenda.
I was planning on that hour that we're talking about. I'm kidding. So we're going to present now on the student success scorecard, and just found a typo right in the title of the first page. So in your packet, there's a series of handouts that you have, and the very first one is the president's statement. So I'm going to have Stan just give an overview of that before we go into.
Yeah, very, very quickly, I think you had an opportunity to take a look at our statement. We've been asked as an institution to have a president's statement on the scorecard, and I think what the Chancellor's office wanted us to do was to try to echo 2 key points. One, that the scorecard is a statewide document now that's kind of the centerpiece of the new legislation, the Student Success Act, and the student success information that you all heard about when you attended the workshop over in Harris Ranch. And then secondly, that the scorecard itself is an instrument still in development. Fortunately or unfortunately, they had to publish something to get the process started. So the Chancellor's office put together a metric and published the first student success scorecard, knowing that there were going to have to be some changes to how the data was compiled and what the reports were actually representing. So now that the report card is out there, now that the scorecard is out there, we're still getting requests from the Chancellor's office to reconfigure the data a little bit, and they're trying to work through and provide updates to the information. So it's still a measurement tool in progress, but it's trying to identify these 5 key indicators of institutional success that we would begin to align our institution to. So for our purposes and for board purposes, I think as you think about our cycle of reviewing our strategic plan and what are the major objectives that we want to have as an institution in our strategic plan, it only makes good common sense that we would incorporate these indicators as part of our strategic plan, and they would guide and lead the resources and the processes and programs in our institution. So it's in its infancy, and what Jennifer's going to do is take you through just a quick explanation of what each of the screens mean so that you have a way of understanding it and we can interpret it together as the card continues to evolve.
Okay, and the next handout in your packet that I don't have up on the board though is just a little bit of background on the Student Success Task Force. The Student Success Scorecard, and there's 2 pages there, and it basically talks about how it was developed and that it's the latest version of the accountability report for community colleges, formerly called the ARCC, which is now the Student Success Task Force. And it'll be released in January of each year, and then to the colleges to verify their data, and then on March 30th of each year it will go public. It's based on Chancellor's Office MIS data, which is data that we provide from our management information system to the Chancellor's Office, so that's what it's based on. Again, Stan referred to that the report is not perfected yet, and so as we get information, we look at it, we have been asking questions in the Chancellor's Office and also working with our MIS to make sure that our reporting is correct, and then they just as recently as a week ago sent out an email changing some of the data that they had because they found an error in their own report. So it's still a work in progress even though it has been released, working out the kinks this year. The second page, the next page that you have is on the Board of Trustees' role in the report. And the recommendations is that Board of Trustees at one of the public meetings review the report, has a discussion about the report, allows for public comment on the report. Although it says that the board should adopt this scorecard each year. What they really want is for us to have a discussion about how we will maintain successful performances or improve upon less successful ones, whichever the case is. So that's the purpose of the presentation and discussion with the board. We're actually required to submit our board minutes each year following the report to the state chancellor's office showing that we had the discussion at one of the board meetings. So we'll be submitting the minutes from this to the chancellor's office. And then one of the things that they point out too is that trustees should consider the year-to-year performance on each of the performance indicators versus necessarily your peer group comparison or those things, but that we look at not just that, but what are the unique situation of our college, our population. So that's just a little bit more background. So as you can see here, this is the first page of the report. Hopefully I can use this over here. This is the first page of the report, and it's basically a profile of the entire college. And this is our numbers for 2011-12, so we'll always be working a year behind. What the annual unduplicated head count is based on our active students enrolled in summer, fall, winter, and spring, and includes both credit and non-credit students. And actually, before I go further, I do want to thank Ryan Barry Souza, who's in the front row here, who is our entire research office, who has helped put this report together. And we've been running through the data together nonstop, and so I really wanted to thank him for that. So then they talk about the FTES, and you guys are familiar with FTES language, but the full-time equivalent student. So it's different than our head count, but it's based on our equivalent of 525 hours of student instruction per each full-time equivalent student. So this page basically, which I can't even see that far, should have brought my glasses up here, shows just our breakdown by gender, age, ethnicity, and our full-time equivalent students here in the top row, and our credit sections, non-credit, our median section size, and then our percentage of full-time faculty, which is 66.2. So this is kind of just the overview profile. Okay, good. So the key is, and you can go in and play around with this if you want to, look at it. You can look up a number of different colleges. You can look up any college in the state. You can look up for peer colleges, and then you can look at it by each of these areas. So the first area that they looked at is persistence. And before we get to persistence, I want to explain these two. So college prepared and unprepared and overall. So what you're going to see in each of the different sections, you're going to see a college prepared compared to unprepared for college. College prepared is that the student is their lowest course attempted in English or math was college level. So if you came into college level English or math, then you're college prepared and you fit into that category. If you were, if your English or math was basic skills level, then you're considered unprepared for college. So this first group, which is persistence, is the percentage, and the cohort that they're looking at is 2006-2007. So they start with the 2006-2007 cohort, and they look at the first-time students in 2006-2007 who earned a minimum of 6 units and who attempted any math or any English class in their first 3 years of being at COS. Did they then enroll in 3 consecutive terms anywhere in the community college system? So what this says is that for students who were prepared for college, 56% of them enrolled in 3 consecutive semesters at a community college, and college unprepared students, 65% enrolled in 3 consecutive semesters with an overall of 62, almost 63%. So that it's kind of interesting that the unprepared are a little bit higher, but one of the things that we were looking at is that our college prepared students are more likely to leave after a year. They might finish a certificate or degree or they're become transfer ready, and they may either graduate or transfer prior to finishing 3 semesters. Because if you come in ready for your college English or math, you're going to finish earlier because you don't have to go through as many steps. So that may be one reason. And actually, Ryan and I looked at a lot of colleges, comparable colleges, and a lot of them have this kind of backwards number there, or that the college prepared number was lower. Okay? All right, so the second, and just these different areas that we're going to look at, persistence, units, completion, remedial, and career technical, these are different milestones that we found indicate better success in college. So that's why we're looking at these. The next one is a 30-unit mark. And so what this means is that of the same group in 06-07, the percentage of them who earned at least 6 units in math or English, and took math and English, they had 6 units in math or English, and then continued to earn 30 units at any school in the community college system. So the reason we look at this is because 30 units is the halfway point to 60 units, which is a momentum point. You can get your AA degree or transfer at 60 units. So halfway there, 30 units. So what this shows us is those students who are college prepared, they have a 69.4% of them completed 30 units. 63% of the unprepared for college completed 30 units, overall 65%. So this basically shows us that whether you're prepared or unprepared, you still have an ability to complete those 30 units. The next one is completion. So this is again the same cohort. This shows a little bigger difference, and so again the same cohort. First-time students finishing 6 units or completing math or English, that they did one of 3 things. They either completed, got an AA, AS, or certificate, that's the first one, that they transferred to a 4-year institution, that's the second one, or that they became transferred prepared, which means they successfully completed 60 units in UC or CSU transferable courses. And so this shows that for our college prepared students, 70% of them either get the degree or certificate, transfer, or become transfer prepared. 38%, and this is after 6 years, that's one thing I should have mentioned, from 06 until 6 years. This is over, all of these are over a time frame of 6 years, that 38% complete one of those milestones, and overall 46%. And one of the things to remember is that statewide, about 72% of our students start at unprepared for college, and 28% start as college prepared. So that's those overall numbers.
Jen, is the 6-year milestone going to be the measuring stick?
Yes, that will continue to be the measuring stick, and we'll look at, you know, now that we've looked at the 06-07 cohort for 6 years, next year we'll start with the 07-08 and look at their 6 years. Right. So it'll continue that way, but we're always going to go back 6 years to the prior year, so we'll always be a year behind as well. Okay, the next one is called remedial, which really is, I don't know why they picked that word, because we call it developmental now. So it's interesting that they picked remedial for the description, but again, the same group of students, but it's credit students who attempted a course designated as levels below transfer in math or English. So in our terms, if they our below transfer math courses are Math 360 and Math 200. So if they took Math 360 or Math 200 and then took a transfer level math course in the next 6 years, or in English, if they started in English 360 or English 251, which are below transfer levels, and then completed English 1, which is our transfer level, within 6 years. And so those are the first two, math and English. So 17% of our students who start in those lower courses complete a transfer level math. In English, 20% of the students who start in those lower level complete. Now, the key with the ESL is that our campus doesn't necessarily qualify for that measurement or milestone. Because what that's saying is if you took any level of ESL course at any time, and then you took the college level course in that 6-year period, we don't have a college level ESL course. Other colleges may have like an English 360, which is the entry level college course that we have. They would have like a similar course that's for ESL students. So in our case, our students would have to have taken an ESL course and then completed English 1, which is our transfer level course, and that's a huge milestone because our cohort doesn't necessarily fit the.
That's why the percentage is so low.
That's why the percentage is so low. And when you look at colleges across the state, it's very similar because a lot of colleges don't have an ESL pathway through the English courses, and so they are. It's very similar. Okay, and then the last one is, let me pull that up, sorry, is career technical education. And so what this one is overall, and it shows students who they completed a career technical education course and then took at least 8 more units in the next 3 years in one of those areas, in the same area, if they had earned a AA degree or certificate, transfer, or achieved transfer prepared. And 53% of those students did complete one of those milestones after they came in. So that's the general information. What I've also included for you in your packet that you can go back and look at is, so now we're going to go back to the first thing. Is it? Yes. Yeah. So in the next thing in your packets is, Megan's going to pull it up, but it's a kind of their one-page thing. This is what you can, carry in your pocket for an overview of. Okay, so scroll down through that. It's, keep going. Thank you. Okay, that's it. So this is just a one-page document that summarizes everything that we just saw. So this shows the overview. So this is just like the handout you can use if you want to share it with somebody. It gives all the information in 2 pages. So if you look at the next page, oh, I went too fast. Maybe that helped me. It's too tricky. So go back up. Sorry. You need a mouse pad. So anyway, I'll just keep going through. There's a 2-page document. That's the 2-page document. It summarizes everything. That's the next handout in your packet. What I also provided you is okay, so go down to the next one. Yeah, that gives you the overview of the whole thing. The next one gives you the kind of more of the numbers. It gives you the breakdown of this document here. It gives you the breakdown percentages in each of the years, in each of the areas. So it gives you some more background information, like that if you're looking at the N, the cohort size of 1900 in persistence for overall of that, only 436 students were prepared versus 1,500 who were unprepared. So it kind of gives you a little more information on the exact numbers that we're looking at. If you go down a little bit more, you have the overview of the college. That one there is the overview of the college. And then the last document is your comparison groups. And so this is our peer group comparisons. And so we're in group 1. So these are the colleges, if you're looking at, if you want to play with it and look at who do we compare to, you can look at these colleges here. And I pulled up, if you go back to the internet, we pulled up a couple of them, so I could just really quickly show you one. Just go to one of the green ones. So this is Modesto Junior College. So just looking at their remedial rates, you can look at the math at Modesto, which is one of our comparison colleges, is 16.6%, and ours was 17.3. Their English was 24.6, and ours was 20.8. And their ESL is 8.9, which shows you the same issue we had, which ours was 8.8. So that's just an example of one of the comparison colleges. Let's get the last one and then we'll wrap it up. We got one more, the other, sorry.
Right there.
There you go, even easier. This is Riverside City College, and this is also their remedial. So again, very similar, 16% math, and ours was 17%. They're 26% English, ours was 20%, and a little bit higher in the ESL, 11.7%, and ours was 8.8. So that's one of the other things you can do with this, is go in and look at our comparison colleges. So that is the general overview. Questions?
Or maybe you're going to go into what do you hope to gain from all this knowledge?
You know, one of the things we have to do is go back first and kind of look at our data, look at what, there's a lot of questions, just Brian and I looking at it, was, well, what does that mean? What was the number of students? What group of students were they looking at? So we want to look further at what are some of the, for example, if we look at the students who were underprepared for college but then achieved a transfer or degree, what did they do? What were their course taking patterns? Did they do orientation? Did they see a counselor? What were some of the things that they did to get to that milestone? So kind of looking further into that. But in addition to that, what we want to look at is overall goals for the college. So as we're looking at, also in alignment with ACCJC, they're going to be asking us starting next year to give percentages, like what are, as a college, as a district, what is our standard for retention? What is going to be our standard for graduation and transfer? What are our standards going to be as an institution? So using this data, we can set our standards. We can also, as Stan has referred to, as we look at our strategic plan, make decisions that how are we going to focus our strategic plan and how are we going to set goals for ourselves based on some of this information. So I think there's a lot more research to be done on digging into the data, but then there's a lot, once we are confident with it and once the Chancellor's Office is confident with it, that we can make decisions based on some of that data.
So I think a year or so ago, we decided to have mandatory orientation.
Yes.
It would be interesting to see how those students do compared to the past students.
Absolutely.
And we'll be able to tell that, right?
We will.
Because that'll play out in that 6-year span of those cohorts, as those students now become year 2, 3, 4 of that 6-year span. You're going to see the impact, hopefully, of those changes.
The other thing, Rachel, I think as the data is defined, I think we'll clear up some of the irregularities. Like the first slide she showed had to do with persistence, and it showed that our college-prepared students persisted at a significant lower rate than our unprepared students. And she gave a couple different reasons why that may be happening. And one of them we've also kicked around is we have a number of college-prepared students that may come here for 1 or 2 classes, but they don't persist for 3 semesters. They may just attend during the summer, or they may come and take an English or math class right out of high school and then go on to UC Berkeley. But that counts against our college-prepared number, which contributes to it being lower than our unprepared college number. So hopefully some of those kinds of things will be fleshed out in the next couple of years.
Can I also add to that? I think the value of this being a vehicle for discussion around campus is invaluable. We need to be jumping off point when we're talking about data, and having something as public as this is a great place to center our attention.
And how often will we be doing reports like this? Annually to the board, or will we be doing it more?
Well, I mean, our goal for everything, if you look at all our planning models and our decision-making models, everything we're doing for accreditation, data and analysis is at the center of that. And that's the thing, I think as we've discussed in one of the board study sessions, as we bring stuff forward, ask us. Your motto should be show us the data. And, we need to be bringing data and information forward to you as a board as we make decisions, and in all of our constituencies as we make decisions. This particular report is designed to come before the board on a yearly basis. So once it comes out in March, I would assume each April we would make a presentation to the board. But we may want to do a study session next year and spend a little bit more time on it to be able to dig deeper as we get to know the report better and are able to look into it a little bit deeper.
Well, the other thing I think we can do, Greg, is we design our calendar for keeping the board apprised of these student success indicators. And it kind of goes back to the comment you made earlier, John, about the board holding the institution a little bit more accountable for implementation of these accreditation standards. Because we could take a look at the cycle we have now in place for things like the annual departments and divisions that will go through program review. And what do the results of their annual program reviews look like? That could be a report to the board. While it's one small component of the institution's success, it's an important component. And then after registration for each of the semesters, we can bring you information that quantifies how many students completed the orientation, how many students have a student educational plan. Those other indicators of success that we know are going to feed into this. So we can build in periodic reports to the board that happen monthly that connect directly to the annual emphasis of something as big as this.
Yeah, I think one of the reports could be early on is how many of the students actually attended the mandatory orientation.
Right.
And that could happen fairly.
Right.
And
Would you have that data that quick?
Francis, they've already been gathering all that data, and they have a lot of information that we could actually probably bring in June to share with you guys. They've gathered a lot of data on there.
I think these reports are almost as important as our financial reports we get at every meeting. I mean, that's why we're here, is for student success. So I think it's important that maybe we get it more than once a year.
Right.
I agree with you doing last
Ed, thank you.
Thank you very much.
For just one quick thing,
Yep.
if you don't mind. The very last page of this is the breakdown of the colleges by peer group.
Yep.
Peer group, and I see we're in group 1, and do you know how they, and this is for comparison purposes, obviously. How did they, what was the criteria for which group you were?
They look at our demographics, so our, ethnic, racial, financial status, that kind of thing, and then they look at a number of variables. There's actually, if you look at the bottom, there's a peer group methodology document that we can refer to. I can get that to you, but they look at a number of variables. Is there anything you want to add to that, Mike?
Demographics is primary.
Yeah. So, and those are typical colleges we get compared to over and over again. And you look at like Riverside, it's huge compared to us, but their demographic is pretty similar. So, and I think the other key, back to Greg's question, is that one of the important things is that the board is knowledgeable about this and able to talk about it with the public, with your constituents, because as we are now required to publish this, we have it, it's on our home page. There, you can get right to the scorecard from the home page that I think by next year and the year after, the public's going to become more familiar with this report and start asking questions about it and doing their own comparisons. So I think that's one of the keys, is also as our representatives, that you're knowledgeable about it and be able to answer questions about it to your constituents as well.
You notice on here, group 1 shows Columbia College, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is there a Columbia College?
They're talking, and that's the same thing. That's West Hills Coalinga, and that's just the way, like, if you look at, we're listed as Sequoias because the way that the Chancellor's office has us listed as Sequoias Community College.
Where I'm going with there's no West Hills Memorial anywhere on any of the lists.
Well, what they're listing there, John, is the district. So Coalinga is the home designation for
So it should say West Hills.
the district. And the district has West Hills Coalinga and West Hills Lemoore, 2 colleges.
I kept looking for West Hills, and I was trying to.
Yeah, but I mean, and that's one of the things. There was a little article about West Hills faring better than COS in the other paper from a different city. And the thing is there was one area that they were slightly better than us in, but in the rest, we're either better than them or right with them. So it was a little skewed, but I think those are kind of things that you guys can talk about.
I saw that same article, and that West Hills better than COS. One of them was 67.1, the other was 67.2.
Exactly.
Right.
So that's why I think as we start to pay more attention to it, the public's going to start paying more attention to it. But headlines like those, it was really receptive. And so as long as you guys are able to talk about it.
I think what the state is saying is, hey, we've got the education in California back to where it used to be, and this is probably their first step.
Well, this is a great topic that we
Okay.
need to do on. Anything else? consent calendar is the minutes of the previous meeting, is a personnel report, payment of bills, a working budget, an agreement with the Allied Health, Allied Health Therapy Assistance Program. If anyone in the room wants to have it removed from the consent calendar and treated as a regular item, do that. Does anyone want anything removed? If not, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So moved.
Moved by Ken, and seconded by Earl. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes 4-0. Item 10 is a change order for the Tulare Center Phase 3 Farm Animal Complex. Mr. Middlestead.
Well, I'd like to start off with an apology. About 3 months ago, I came before the board and told you these were the last change orders for the Tulare Center.
We didn't believe you.
I know. That was my intent, that was what I was told. This one had actually slipped through the cracks. This work has been done, it's been done for a while. We just failed to process it properly. So they are 6 items for this is the Phase 3 contract, or project, Measure J funded. The HVAC contractor, all were omissions to the project. A lot had to do with sheet metal and different odds and ends in sheet metal that were omitted from the original bid packages. So it's for $15,000. Covered that up, I'm sorry. And it is, we still have, as of the date of this writing, $423,000 left in our contingency fund. And it is recommended the board approve change order for the HVAC portion of Tulare Center Phase 3 project.
So moved.
Second. Second, any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. And that is the last one, right?
Yes.
Item 11, education protection account requirements.
We talked earlier about the education protection account. It came about with the passage of Prop 30. And one of the requirements is that we keep that revenue separate on our books. And that we, through board action, recognize this such once per year and show how we're going to spend those dollars. Prop 30 specified that it cannot be used on salary or benefits for administrators or any other administrative costs. And our plan for the 12-13 year is to spend the entire $7,066,000 on instructional salaries and benefits. And just to reiterate what we talked about on 2 or 3 occasions earlier, that does not mean that $7 million in new money came in as a result of Prop 30. It simply means they've reclassified, I think Leanne's listed over $9 million from what used to be general apportionment to Prop 30 proceeds, and so they have to be shown in this education protection account annually.
Any questions? Or vote?
Move. Second.
Second. Megan, please poll the board.
Trustee Mann?
Aye.
Trustee Sherman?
Aye.
Trustee Smith?
Aye.
Trustee Zohoff?
Aye. Item 12, local agency investment fund. Ms. Calvin.
The local agency investment fund is an account held at the state of California, the Office of the Treasurer. Several of our groups on campus, including food services, various trust funds, farm, ASB, use the LAIF in some way or another to invest funds. We currently have $200,000 invested there. It pays interest at less than 0.5%. We've had this since 1991, and we've never had to come before the board, but apparently here recently we've changed several of the signatures to include Ms. Leangela and Ms. Linda, so we needed to come to the board for that approval.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
A second.
This is a resolution.
Oh, it is? Well, still, yeah.
I move that we approve resolution 2013-09. And you second it.
I did second.
Any further discussion? Megan, please poll the board.
Trustee Sherman?
Aye.
Trustee Ennis?
Aye. Item 13, restructure of administrative offices. Brown.
At the April 8th board meeting, the board laid out 4 confidential positions. The executive assistant to the president and 3 executive assistants to vice presidents. But in the layoff of those 4 individuals, I mentioned that there would be a restructure of several of the confidential employees to make the office run more effectively and more efficiently. And the board approved that. In the past month or so, I've worked on doing an office restructure. And as a result of that, I'm coming here tonight to ask the board to formally rescind 3 of the layoff notices that were given as a result of the April 8th board meeting. And the basis for the rescission of those layoffs is that we've decided that the office can operate effectively with 3 confidential employees instead of the 4 confidential employees. Essentially what we've done is we've combined the president's office with the vice president's office and had a restructuring of duties where the remaining confidential employees would share duties that were previously held by 4 individuals. So tonight I would ask the board to formally adopt resolution 2013-10, rescinding the layoff notices to the 3 most senior confidential employees, which would be Annette Giegold, Karen Pauls, and Megan Tiersch. And also in resolution 2013-10, I would ask the board to formally approve the office restructure, as well as to formally approve the revised job descriptions of the confidential employees that are remaining. We changed the name to reflect the executive administrative assistant.
Any questions, Mr. Brad? Is there a motion?
I move we approve resolution 2013-10.
Have a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Megan, please poll the board.
Trustee Ennis?
Aye.
Trustee Sherman?
Aye.
Trustee Ennis?
Aye.
Trustee Ennis?
Aye. Thank you. Item 14 is curriculum, new, modified, and deleted. You want to go through all those? Has the board reviewed these things? Do you have any questions of Jennifer, or would you like to comment?
No, to make it easier, pages 1 through 7 are changes for repeatability. Page 7 through 10 are new courses that were designed for repeatability, ag certificate, fashion merchandising, and manufacturing, shortened version. Page 10 starts the deletions through page 17, and those again are all, as in the past, they're no longer being offered or they're deleted because of the repeatability. Page 17 is our new programs. There's a number that are in INT. They've revised several of their certificates and added some certificates on the recommendation of their advisory committee. And then we've added 2 of those associate degrees for transfer, the administration of justice and Spanish. I did a revised version.
Any comments or questions?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the curriculum new, modified, or deleted.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Earl, second. Okay, Greg, second. All right, any further discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 4-0. And I thank you for your tolerance of the substandard meeting conducted.